All right, we're recording now, so just know that that's happening. All right, let's so at the top of your poem, you should have written down, explain how the poem you found reflects your person or couple's personality. And this is for your poetry interview project. And the first thing that we need to do is go back to our pre-writing rules, the ones that we walked through earlier this week. And so number 1 says carefully read the prompt. And I'm going to assume that since you wrote it down here, that you've already carefully read it. The next thing says underline words in the prompt which give specific direction, important instructions, or topics to address. So the first thing that we need to underline is that you have to find your own poem. And it has to be one that represents your couple or your person symbolically, not literally. So if your person is a farmer, do not find a poem that is about a farmer. Okay, then it's wrong. Okay, if you've already done that, then it's wrong and you need to find something else. Okay, so you need to find something that represents your people symbolically, not literally. That's part of the point of this analysis. Yes.
Is it like really literal so if the person has very few regrets, they don't like literally say I have very few regrets. Like you can see through that, they're like through their decisions and stuff like that. To then pick a poem about having very little regrets.
If you're making an inference, then yes, that's fine. Now, the next thing says underline the words in prompt. We've already underlined the poem. What is the other thing we should underline?
Explain.
Okay, we do have to explain, but we've already done that. That idea of the reflects. It reflects your person's personality, which is a little bit redundant, but you get the idea. So how does it reflect the person's personality? So the next thing it says is pull out and bullet the words that are underlined. So we'll do that here at the bottom, and we'll have the poem. And we'll have the reflects person's personality. Then this says brainstorm ideas for the bullets without using words in the prompt. This is where you're going to do your thesis statement, because that is going to be how we're going to do that. So first of all, the poem is titled Lifting and Leaning. So let's write in our title. So Lifting and Leaning, and it's by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. And then I'm going to write about my grandmother. And so if I write about my grandmother, I'm going to say that she's generous. I'm going to say that she's faithful. And she was loving. And so if I'm going to write my thesis statement now that I've brainstormed some answers or some ideas for this, I'm going to say something like this. The generous, loving, and faithful. Now, we would think we would put the word personality here, but that is going to repeat what's in our prompt. So here's the best thing for you to do. Find some synonyms, and I already found some synonyms for personality, like disposition. I'm sorry, my handwriting's terrible, but disposition, makeup, magnetism. That's not really the word I want to use there. Nature, individuality, identity, and then I did some synonyms for, I think, I don't know, I clicked on identity or something, and it's like attributes and essence. So those are all different words that you could use in place of personality. So what I thought I would write is the generous, loving, and faithful nature of Kay Reed, my grandmother, is described in Lifting and Leaning by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. And so now I have a thesis statement. And when you're writing your paragraph, this thesis statement is going to be your first sentence. It's going to be your assertion, your topic sentence. And the next step on here, it says, based on the prompt and what you bulleted, decide how many paragraphs to use to address the prompt. You know you only have to write one paragraph, but it's going to be one 11.3 paragraph. And as we continue writing or doing our pre-writing, we'll do that on the back. And this says, write 3 to 5 word phrases when planning your topic sentence for each paragraph. Well, if we only have one paragraph, we're not going to have topic sentences, right? Okay, but we will have some ideas. And our ideas come from these words that are in our thesis statement. And so if we write out generous, loving, faithful, and I'm going to focus on how my grandmother was always faithful to pray for me. So I'm going to put faithful to pray. So if these are going to be my assertions, what I'm going to prove, then that's what I'm going to do. If you guys have to go, then do what you need to do. Okay? So now what I need to do, it says, write 3 concrete details under each topic sentence. Well, if we're going to have an 11.3 paragraph, all we really need is 3 concrete details. So maybe what we could do is write 1 for each. So if my grandmother was generous, I might look at this this phrase that say people who lift. She's one of the people who lifts in this world. So I'm going to use that as my concrete detail. And part of her nature is that she's loving. So I'm going to come back over to this side, and it says, are you a leaner? Are you a leaner who lets others bear your portion of worry and labor and care? Well, she is one of those people who carries other people's worry and labor and care. So I would use that for my loving part. Okay, so I'm going to flip this over, and that's going to be my proof for worry. That's going to be my proof that she's loving. Worry and labor and care. And I might put up here, because that doesn't sound like good stuff here. So I'm going to write in before this that she carries others' worry, labor, and care. And so now I need to find proof that matches that she was faithful to pray. And so if I go back onto this side, I might put on here that she eases the load. She is one of those people who is easing the load of other people. And so when I put it here for my concrete details, I'm going to put easing the load. So now what we have is some concrete details that are going to help us write our 11.3. So what's the first thing that comes in our 11.3? Topic sentence, or our thesis statement. So instead of making you rewrite that topic sentence, let's come back over here and put that this is our TS. So our topic sentence. So what's next after topic sentence?
first concrete detail.
Our first concrete detail. And then we have 2 sentences of commentary. Then we have another concrete detail, followed by 2 sentences of commentary, followed by another concrete detail
With 2
and 2 commentaries.
We should have 3 concrete details.
Correctamundo. And then we have a concluding sentence, yes?
Yes.
Okay. So if I say, the generous, loving, and faithful nature of Kay Reed, my grandmother, is described in Lifting and Leaning by Ella Wilcox Wheeler, or Wheeler Wilcox, whatever. Then my next sentence would be here. For example, Wheeler says, or Wheeler describes, yeah. Wheeler describes the generosity of people who lift. And now this is where you put in your commentary. Okay, so how does your person demonstrate that generosity? Okay, so my grandmother, so we're going to say, Kay Reed always made an effort, and this is not great, I'm just writing off the top of my head, always made an effort to fly me to Kansas every summer when I was a child. She knew how to make me feel special. Okay? So do you see how I'm building depth here rather than just writing fluff? I've given you concrete detail from the text by Wilcox, and then I'm applying it to this particular person. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, here's what you guys are going to do. You're going to do this much for your poem. Okay? See what you can do with the pre-writing steps and your first concrete detail and commentary.
So just our topic sentence in our first.
Yes, but go through that whole pre-writing process
Okay.
that we talked about so far. Okay? All right, good work, you guys.